Hey peepsy doodles! So today I'm going to do a video for you guys, for all of my book lovers out there, and I want to talk to you about some of my most disappointing reads of 2019. Now, by no means does that mean that the books that I have chosen here are books that I hated. They're just books that I was really excited about, and they didn't exactly hit the mark. So here we go. I'm going to start out with one of the most recent ones that I read, and that was The Beautiful by Renee Audier. This book came out, I believe, in October, so it was one of the end of the year books. We did a book club review on it, so if you guys want to go and find that, you're more than welcome to go check that out for my full feelings on the book. The problem I had with The Beautiful, there were not countless, but there were issues. I think what happened was I went into this with way too high of expectations. I had The Beautiful by Renee Audier on my radar for a year. I was so excited about it. It was supposed to be the book that brought back the vampires. It was supposed to be an adult version of Twilight. It was just supposed to be all of these things that, I don't know. It was supposed to be a lot of things, and I felt like it really fell short of the mark. There were a lot of tropes that it used that really drove me crazy. The main character, she just was like super special for no reason. And while back in the day, that would have been fine, like back in the Twilight days, more as an adult, like I don't know, I just feel like that trope is really overused. When nobody catches the attention of the dashing Sebastian, and then all of a sudden this young woman comes along and she is just like everybody's everything, and everybody's dying for her attention, and that drives me crazy. And the other thing was that she had like this deep dark secret, which I thought was going to drive me up a wall. Instead, once you figured out the secret, it wasn't even that good of a secret. But I think like the first half of the book, all they could talk about was her deep secret, her dark secret, her secret that could ruin her. And I'm like, no, it's not. This book was supposed to take place in like the late 1800s in New Orleans. And it definitely, that's where it took place, but it did not give you the ambiance and the feel of an 1800s New Orleans, which really drove me crazy. I felt like the last half of the book really kept me interested, especially between, I can't even remember what the main character, Celine, and Sebastian. I really liked reading the romantic aspect of them in the latter half of the book, and the book ended in a way that got me excited to pick up the second book. But this was definitely, I feel like it was one that I had overhyped in my head for a year and then got it, and it just fell short of my expectations, unfortunately. The second book, so Vampire Academy was recommended to me by one of my book eager friends. And so it had all the things that I thought that I loved. And so she recommended it, and finally I picked it up and started reading it. I don't remember if I actually finished Vampire Academy, and I might have finished this one and started the next one. I don't remember. But it was kind of a chore to work through. I felt like it was something to where maybe if I would have read it back in high school, I would have liked it a bit more, but it was just a bit too childish. I felt like our main character was too childish. It just wasn't. I'm not saying that, there is a huge following behind Vampire Academy, so don't get me wrong. It's not that I hate you series. I just felt like it was something maybe I should have read when I was younger. She did tell me that the spin-off series Bloodlines is more adult, and maybe that, because I have them downstairs. I bought all the books for the read of it, and I just ended up not liking them. So maybe in the future I'll start on Bloodlines and see if I like those. But Vampire Academy was definitely, as I'm dropping shit, by Rochelle Mead is definitely one that I was excited to pick up, and I ended up very disappointed with it. Next on my list. So I'm adding this to my list. Now, just wait a minute before you shit bricks on me, okay? Listen. So, Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. I need to preface this. I was absolutely enthralled with and taken aback with Scythe. We did a full review on Scythe, and you're more than welcome to go and watch my full thoughts on Scythe. But I adored it. I loved it. For like months after I read it, I recommended it to everybody that I could recommend it to. I thought that it was one of the most interesting dystopians I have ever read. It is still one of my favorite books that I've ever read of all time. I love Scythe. So, when I read Thunderhead, I immediately left Scythe and went into Thunderhead. When I started that, I got a decent way in. I got a couple hundred pages in. Well, not a couple hundred, because, oh yeah, there's 500. Okay. I probably got a third of the way into the book. And I didn't finish it. Now, I think I was heading down into like a reading slump at the time. You know, it didn't wow me. And a lot of people said that Thunderhead was better than Scythe, and I'm going to try it again. I'm going to give it another go at a later date, but I was really expecting so much more out of Thunderhead than I even, I didn't really expect a whole lot out of Scythe, because I don't know, it just was one that I picked up out of a whim after watching some reviews on it. So when I started this, I went in with very high expectations because of how much I loved Scythe, and I loved the world, and I loved the politics, and I'm usually not a politics person. I loved everything about Scythe. I loved our main characters. I absolutely loved all of it. And then coming into Thunderhead, I feel like at least the first part of the book that I read, the first 200 pages, didn't really continue on par with how good Scythe was. So please correct me if I'm wrong. If you loved Thunderhead, if it was better than the first one, convince me to give it a reread, because I want to love it and I want to move on to the third book. But to the Toll, this is some people's favorite series of all time, and Thunderhead, I'm hoping that it was just the time that I read it, but it didn't do it for me the way that Scythe did. Last but not fucking least. So, Capturing the Devil by Carrie Maniscalco. Now let me just tell you, this book was a gift to me from one of my very, very near and dear peeps here on YouTube. And I was more excited than I have ever been about any kind of book, receiving any kind of book gift ever. Like, I got this in the mail. I think she had 2 copies. And I was so pumped. Stalking Jack the Ripper is one of my favorite series of all time. I recommend it to everyone. Stalking Jack the Ripper and Hunting Dracula, and Killing Houdini? I don't remember. But the first 3 were life. Even the third book, when I was really skeptical, because I'm like, how are you going to go from Jack the Ripper and Dracula to Houdini? But she ended up making it such an interesting read, and put in so much magic and so much intrigue, and the love interest and the kind of love triangle. And I mean, she made me eat my own words, because I was very worried, and it took me a while to read the third book. So I had very, very, very high hopes for Capturing the Devil. The other reason I had high hopes for Capturing the Devil is that it was supposed to take place in the murder hotel of Chicago, which, if any of you have watched American Horror Story, I think the entire 4th season is based on that. The hotel It was an actual place where there was it's the white devil of, hold on, the Devil of the White City, I think is what it's called. I have that book now, and I want to read it, but it's basically the biography of like this whole hotel and the history and the fact that this hotel was built as a murder, to be able to hide bodies and with trap doors, and like it was an actual place. So this book was supposed to be based on that murder hotel. And I was so excited. I just can't. I can't. Okay. So upon reading the book, and it pains me, guys. Upon reading the book, this was the biggest disappointment for me in 2019. I felt like in the past, she had done such a good job of taking Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell's relationship and giving you enough of it to crave more, but not overdoing it to the point where you still had the murder mysteries in all of the books, and you were still trying to figure out who done it, and there was still all of the intrigue of that, with the relationship getting thrown in there so that you still wanted more, but it was enough. You know what I mean? Like, this book, the first probably half, 3/4 of the book is pretty much focused on their relationship. And while I love reading about Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell, they are like one of my favorite couples in book series history. It was too much when you go from a series that isn't really like mainly focused on those two. The main focus is always on the mysteries and the murders and the crimes, and the fact that it was like, it took away the excitement and the mystery between them. It took away the mystery for Thomas. It turned him into this like soft romantic, which he was at heart, but it was more fun seeing him hard and seeing Audrey Rose trying to like coax that romanticism out of him, and to see the little glimpses of it, as opposed to him turning into like this full-on romantic, and you're like, where's Thomas? And so the first like 3/4 of the book was that, and at the there were like little murders that were like sprinkled in for good measure, and there would be a couple pages based on like them looking through research, and then they would like tumble into bed together or whatever. And then the last quarter of the book, not even the last quarter, it was like probably the last 20 pages maybe of the book was actually, at the location, and it didn't have anything about the murder hotel. That's why I read this. That's why I was excited, I wanted to know about the hotel. I wanted her to take the history of it and plaster it all over the pages, and for her to do a retelling of the whole thing. And all it really took place in was in the basement, and things happened, and then just as quickly as they happened, they didn't happen, and it just was a very, very, it was a letdown. It was a huge letdown. If I didn't absolutely adore the 3 books as much as I did, this book would be a series ruiner. It almost was. Like I said, I hold the first 3 books so near and dear to me that there's not a lot that can touch them, but this book really, I know she was trying to give us what we wanted. She was trying to give us more of Audrey and Thomas, and it ended up ruining the story. It ruined the intrigue. It ruined the murder mystery aspect of it. I was severely disappointed, Carrie. Now, don't think that I'm not going to read her other books, because she is working on other books, and I will absolutely pick them up and read them, because she's a fantastic author, and like I said, I adore her. She's the one that wrote the first 3 books in the first place, but Capturing the Devil just didn't do it for me. So, those are the 4 books that were my biggest disappointments of 2019. So far, I'm at a pretty good pace for 2020. I've read 7 books. I'm in the middle of my 8th book. And I have to say that I don't really have one that I've read so far that has been super disappointing. Actually, for the most part, I think they've all exceeded my expectations, which is great. So I'm hoping that the rest of the year goes on that way. All right, well, I hope that you guys have an awesome day. I'm going to go get this uploaded and cook some dinner, and hopefully continue reading on the book that I am currently reading. So I love you guys, and I hope you have an awesome day.